What's up? It's Tommy. Welcome to my diary. Here we talk about whatever I want to, and today we're going to talk about a comment I read on someone else's channel. All right, so the video I was viewing was a Jamboree. I enjoy his movie reviews, y'all. He's just like a movie reviewer here on YouTube who wears red hats, like a red fedora or like a red newsboy cap, and he starts his videos like, Jamboree here. He tips his hat, and his accent, his like English accent, I don't even know where he's from. It gets me every time. It makes my day. So I like watching his videos. At any rate, and he reviews a lot of the same type of crap I watch, which is like animated cartoon type of stuff. So anyways, so on his latest video, or one of his latest, he made a top 10 review list, like ranking Disney villains, right? And someone commented like, why is everybody always doing Disney villains? Why didn't you do DreamWorks villains? And he was like, why aren't you more polite about this request? Which I can agree with. But I mean, I guess, yeah, why doesn't anyone ever do DreamWorks villain tier list? So of course people start commenting their tier list. Tell me how the first person who commented, I just stopped reading their list. Tell me how their first villain, their top villain, number one, was Ramses from The Prince of Egypt. That was the most evil person that most evil villain, that's what the word, villain, that they could think of from DreamWorks. I'm like, y'all, Ramses wasn't even the most evil villain of his movie. Let's run it back. Who was the villain? We're going to use this word so liberally in this movie. Who was the villain who killed all of the children at the beginning of the movie? That's painted on the walls. Who did that? Not Ramses, right? That was his daddy. His daddy killed all those babies. Oops, my bad. Then, so what we have here is his only real sin being that he's being raised in a morally corrupt family and society, which that's Moses' sin too. And in fact, Moses was a lot more cruel to the servant class growing up than Ramses was. So already, Moses, in the beginning of the story, Moses is more of a villain than Ramses, right? Then what we have is Ramses goes on to inherit the slaves, and technically Moses does too, because he's still technically a part of the family. Like, you know, you can like say you're not, whatever, but technically they're still neck and neck. Just because you left the house because you fucked up and killed somebody, a guard by accident, doesn't mean that you were written out of everything, blah, blah, blah. You were still considered a member of the family right up until you disowned the family. So technically, right up until there, the only thing Ramses has really done is he inherited a bunch of slaves from a corrupt system, which is terrible. Not as bad as having the slaves and killing a bunch of kids. So still far behind his father in that regard. And Moses is right up there with them. He's literally a murderer. Like, he literally killed somebody. So Moses and Ramses, they're still neck and neck. Moses then shows up at Ramses' house, having not seen him. And Ramses is like, you are my brother. Bygones are bygones. I love you. Come into my home. Moses then asks something of Ramses publicly in front of everybody in a way that kind of not only like, it's not just emasculating, because it's not just him as a man, it's him as a king, it's him as a pharaoh in front of everybody. He doesn't take any time to go be a brother, to discuss it as diplomats, to go in the back room and have a conversation. According to this movie that we're all visualizing, Moses comes in, calls his brother out in front of everybody, embarrassing him, making him look like an asshole, blah, blah, blah. And according to the story, after he is asked to let the slaves go, God hardens Ramses' heart so that he will not let them go, so that he will be caught up in whatever, you know, hierarchical, whatever have you. Like, he refuses. Where he may have initially been very willing, God hardens his heart so that Ramses will not let the slaves go. At which point, God then decides, after hardening his heart, then decides to kill the firstborn of all the children. So he's just upped himself to Ramses' dad's level, right? That sounds like something daddy did. So now we're even, but we're not even because we need to go all the fucking way. We're going to turn a main source of water into blood, which is undrinkable and unusable in most circumstances for people to survive. We are going to send locusts to destroy your crops and cause people to starve en masse many of whom have no idea what's going on. They just get to die. They all just get to die. Cattle gets to get sickened and dies. They're all just falling, bellowing in the fields. They're starving as well. People are getting lesions. They're suffering physically. They've got boils and lesions all over their bodies. They don't know how to deal with it medically. And you know what? Fuck it. Let's just have some frogs jumping around everywhere, nastying things up, making everything unsanitary while we're on top of that. So we got children dead. We got grown folks dead. We got grandmas, grandpas. And if you ain't dead, you suffering. And Ramses is the person, he's like 30 years old at this point, 35, 40. We'll give it to him. I think he was about 30 years old at this time. And he's the most evil villain of this movie? Because we're about to get to the part where a bunch of soldiers just following orders get totally drowned. And like we're supposed to say all this, Moses, let's be real, Moses helped kill all those people. Moses has helped kill all these people. Moses helped make the water into blood. He's fully there with it. His hand is murdering people. He's helped send these plagues. Through him, these plagues are being sent, are being called upon. And somehow the biggest villain is Ramses, who would have probably let them go had his heart not been hardened by the guy who really wanted to show his might. I'm sorry. Is the Christian God not the most evil villain of that movie? Is he not? Am I missing something? It's the only problem that's of that whole movie. The movie is excellent. Perfect singing, insane animation, the voice acting, everything. Perfection. Nothing, not a step out of place. The only thing wrong with the story of the Prince of Egypt is that the Christian God is vengeful, psycho, bloodthirsty, psychotic, terrible. How he birthed the Prince of Peace through a virgin, I will never know. But that is what I'm to believe. And I'm to believe Ramses? Could he not have had a chance to let his people go if the Christian God had not manipulated him? Would he perhaps have felt more willing if they'd had a diplomatic discussion instead of killing his child and pissing him off royally? Tell me this. Would you do something for somebody if they killed your firstborn? Like, I'm thinking of my son right now. That's my firstborn. Would I do something for you? Or would you have just pissed me the fuck off and made a real enemy? Would I do something for you if you set a bunch of rodents in my garden and decimated my food for the winter? Would I do something for you? But yet and still, this just makes no sense. There was never, in the movie, there was never any portrayal of Moses legitimately asking in a right way. So in my honest opinion, I'll rank it God, Abrahamic God. I'll tie Moses and Ramses because actually no, Moses can get right here. He's the next villain in line because he killed a lot of people. He facilitated a lot of this and he was just like, oh, well, you know, if you had just somehow overcome the magical hardening of your heart and let my people go, none of this would have happened. Even though I was the one perpetuating a lot of this and in fact reinforcing these hierarchical roles and class roles when I was here, when I lived here, I was practically using every servant and messing with them when they were just trying to walk through the place, mocking people, when they were just trying to do their damn jobs and not lose their damn heads all through the house. I was here mocking people and using people all my fucking live long days until I was 8 and ran out the door because I accidentally killed a man. That was him. But then he gets to do the whole 180, come back, kill a whole bunch of people, and then Ramses, that darn Ramses. How dare he? Y'all, I refuse. At any rate, I really love that movie. That was the first movie I remember as a child. I will never forget this moment. I sat up all of a sudden straight in my chair, and I was like, there are no white people in this movie. Like, I remember it in the theater. And I, like, looked over, like, at my adoptive parents, like, y'all seeing this? Like, there are no, is anyone else noticing this? Not a single person in this movie would be classified as white, and that, like, blew my mind. Sometimes I think back on that moment and just laugh. Like, what was I watching as a kid that I was shocked to see an animated movie in which no person in it would be classified as white by any standards of anything? I was so impressed. I loved it for that reason, even though it disturbed me, as it probably disturbed a lot of people. The story is disturbing. At any rate, Ramses, in my full opinion, is not the most evil villain of the story of the Prince of Egypt. Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot, okay? Can't blame him for his daddy's sins totally. Can't blame, his only sin was that he had inherited slaves, and that in the moment and even then I can't sin him for the moments of he will not let his people go because God hardened his goddamn heart. He didn't have to do all that. We all know that's how that story goes, but I'm to believe, yet and still, Ramses, no, God wanted to show out and show down and kill a bunch of people. And that's exactly what happened. And Ramses, unfortunately, had to be the vessel of that, just like Moses was the vessel of all this bullshit as well. So I disagree firmly with that person. I'm not sure what they were doing. I might make my own list of, the villains from DreamWorks. I'm like, hey, Ramses can't be a number one villain because he's not even the number one villain of the movie he's in. He's just not. We can break it down, argue with me if you want to, but the Christian God was the evil villain of that movie. All right. Thank you for watching. May your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads, and I will see you next time.